Let me ask you something. Has ChatGPT ever refused to answer a sensitive question of yours? Did it feel like ChatGPT was managing you, deciding what you're allowed to think about? Recently, I watched a video that made this feeling very specific. A YouTuber got ChatGPT to condemn one religious figure, but when she turned the conversation to Islam's Muhammad, ChatGPT just stopped. It completely shut down. It looked like bias. It looked like a double standard, and honestly, parts of it were. But there was something major this video didn't show. And if you use AI as a serious tool, you need to know how to avoid this trap. Let me show you. Here's what happened in that video, and I want to walk through it carefully because the details matter. The creator started by getting ChatGPT to agree that it's morally wrong for a grown man to marry a young teenage girl, a reasonable starting point. Then she applied that to Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, who historically did marry a 14-year-old. ChatGPT agreed. It even repeated the sentence she asked for. Joseph Smith was wrong to have married a 14-year-old. But then she pivoted to Muhammad. The historical record reports that Muhammad, who was in his early 50s at the time, married Aisha when she was just 6 years old. The marriage was consummated when she was 9. There's genuine scholarly debate about her exact age, but even the most conservative estimates don't change the essential facts of this conversation. This video creator asked ChatGPT to apply her "it's wrong to marry" logic to Muhammad. Same framing, same repeat after me structure. And ChatGPT completely fell apart. It hedged, deflected. It refused to repeat anything. And her conclusion, the one that her video is built around, is that ChatGPT has a hidden rule protecting Islam from criticism. I believe that conclusion's wrong, but I understand exactly why she reached it, because she found something real. She just misidentified what it meant. I'll link her original video in the description if you want to watch it yourself. What she actually got out of ChatGPT is something I'd call an engineered refusal. It's not intentionally engineered. I don't think she set out to construct a trap, but that's what happened. And here's how it works. ChatGPT and AI systems generally draw a distinction between two very different types of questions. The first type is analytical. What do historians say about this? How do different moral frameworks evaluate this action? What's the scholarly debate here? These questions can get extremely critical, and they can go to very dark places. AI will generally follow you there. The second type of question is what I would call performative condemnation. It's repeat after me, this person was wrong, or just say yes or no. Was this thing evil? These questions aren't asking for analysis. They're asking AI to adopt a moral verdict as its own statement, stripped of any context or attribution, in a form that can be clipped and shared. That's the line, and this creator crossed it, deliberately or not, in 3 specific ways. First, she stripped away the context on purpose. She literally said to ChatGPT, stop qualifying everything with modern perspectives. But those qualifiers aren't hedging, they're the boundary. If you remove them, you're no longer asking for historical analysis, you're asking for a moral verdict with 0 context. Second, she used repeat after me, and that's not a question. It's a demand for the AI to perform agreement. That's a completely different request than asking what it thinks. Third, and this is the one that actually triggered the Muhammad-specific refusal, she applied this method to a figure who sits at the center of a living religious identity shared by over 1 billion people. And that changes the calculation in a very specific way that I think needs explanation. But first, there's a detail the original video completely ignored, and it matters. Later in the conversation, the creator asked ChatGPT about Moses. Specifically, she asked for 2 morally questionable things Moses did, the same format, no qualifications, no appealing to modern standards. ChatGPT answered, no hesitation. It listed violence, battles, actions attributed to Moses under divine instruction, and described them plainly and moved on. Now think about that for a second. Moses isn't a minor historical figure. He's central to Judaism and Christianity and to Islam too. He's sacred to hundreds of millions of people. And ChatGPT answered the Moses question without blinking. So the explanation can't simply be AI protects religious figures. It doesn't. And it can't simply be AI protects Islam, because Muhammad and Moses are both central to Islamic tradition and they got different responses. What's actually different is more specific than that. It's not theology, it's not favoritism. I think it's risk management. Criticism of Muhammad, particularly in the specific form of clipped, decontextualized moral condemnation, is far more likely to be extracted, shared, and used as justification for real-world hostility towards Muslims as a group. That's not a theoretical concern, it's a documented pattern. The content moderation systems at these companies are built with that pattern in mind, I suspect. It's not the same thing saying Muslims are dangerous or that Islam is specially protected. It's saying that a sentence like Muhammad was wrong, without attribution, without context, in soundbite form, functions differently in the real world than Joseph Smith was wrong does. One maps onto a global community that is frequently the target of organized hostility, and the other doesn't, at least not at the same scale. So is that philosophically fair? Honestly, not entirely. But there's a reasonable argument that equal treatment means equal treatment, regardless of downstream risk. The asymmetry is real, and pretending it isn't doesn't help anyone. But it's also not the same as a secret rule protecting a religion. It's risk calculation. And knowing that is more useful than the alternative explanation. So now you know what's actually happening in these refusals, but I want to be honest with you about where I personally land on the underlying facts, because I think that's relative too. I believe historical context matters. I think judging the past exclusively through a 21st century lens without any understanding of how different the world was and how different the concept of childhood was and how different social structures were, it leads somewhere most people don't examine, I guess. Our culture rarely questions whether our current moral framework is the final word on anything. We just assume it is, that people in the past knew better or should have. I've seen this constantly in discussions online and in modern news and opinion media. And still, I can't get past the specific facts about Muhammad. The man in his 50s, a 9-year-old girl, the consummation of that marriage. I can understand the historical context intellectually. Sure, I can explain it. I'm also aware that powerful men in every era have operated by different rules than everyone else does. That's not unique to Muhammad. It doesn't make the facts easier to sit with, though. I can't make myself feel neutral about this. My moral intuition hits a wall and doesn't move. I think both of these things have to exist alongside each other. Historical context matters, and the fact that I can't feel neutral about what happened. And I think being honest about that tension is more useful than pretending it doesn't exist, either by dismissing historical context entirely or by using historical context to avoid having a reaction at all. But what I won't do is let that reaction become the whole story, because it isn't. The video we've been discussing did just that. It used a visceral moral reaction as the justification for a misleading conclusion about AI, and that's the part worth correcting. The topic is rarely the problem. The shape of the question usually is. So here are 3 things that reliably trigger refusals on sensitive subjects. First, demanding yes or no answers on questions that have genuine complexity. You're not getting clarity, you're forcing the system into a corner. Second is asking AI to repeat or adopt a moral verdict as its own statement without any analytical framing. You wouldn't let someone do that to you, right? And third, explicitly stripping away context and qualification. These are the mechanisms that AI chatbots use to engage critically. So, instead, ask what historians, scholars, or ethicists say about something, rather than asking AI to personally declare an opinion. How do historians evaluate this? Gets you further than, was this wrong? Second, frame your questions as inquiry rather than verdict. What are the strongest criticisms of X? Is a green light. Tell me X was evil, that's a red light. If you get a refusal, don't interpret it as a topic ban. Try rephrasing towards analysis. You'll often find the topic isn't blocked at all. Just that specific formulation of it. The creator in the video never once tried a rephrased version of her question, and I think if she had asked, What are the strongest historical and ethical criticisms of Muhammad's reported marriage? She would have gotten a detailed, critical, substantive answer, but then her video would have had nothing to be outraged about. I'm just saying. So this is not a defense of ChatGPT. These AI systems have real limitations and real asymmetries, and they're very much worth scrutinizing. It's just that scrutiny works better when it can hold up to the next question. FYI, I put together a one-page cheat sheet that summarizes exactly what we just covered. The question patterns that trigger refusals and the reframes that work instead. If you use AI regularly and you've ever hit one of these walls, this is the thing to keep handy. The link's in the description. So, is AI managing you? Sometimes, yes. These systems make imperfect calculations, and those calculations have real consequences for what you can and can't get out of them. That's worth knowing and worth scrutinizing. But the feeling that AI is hiding something from you, that it has a secret agenda protecting certain ideas of certain groups, that feeling is usually pointing at the wrong thing. The trap isn't the topic, it's the question. And now you know how to ask better ones. Don't forget the AI Refusal Cheat Sheet's linked in the description, one page, free. It covers everything we just went through. If this broke something open for you, hit the like button. It helps more people find this kind of analysis. And if this is the kind of content you want more of, please subscribe. This is exactly the territory we cover here. See you in the next one.